Very nice. Well, welcome everyone to Club Officer Training. How is everyone doing on this beautiful, snowy, bright, wintry day? Everyone happy to be inside today instead of outside today? I know I am ecstatic. I did not have to go to work today. So welcome everybody. We're going to spend some time talking about club meetings and how to make our club meetings maybe a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging, and hopefully you'll walk away from today with some ideas on maybe how to change things up just ever so slightly so that you can engage your members just a little bit more. My name is Scott Brown. I am your district director for the year. And this is one of those topics that I absolutely love to talk about, not just because it's about club meetings, but it's also a great way because you find solutions out there that you've never thought of before, because there are as many different ways to have a Toastmasters meeting as there are Toastmasters. No two clubs are the same, and you always learn something new, especially when you talk about how to have fun meetings, because I think that's something all of us are interested in, and all of us want to share some best practices. So who was time today to learn about some fun meetings today? Not a single hand went up. One. Okay, Dan, this is for you then. This meeting is just for Dan. Everyone else, I'm so sorry you were late. Now, of course not. That's not true. But we're going to talk about having some very fun. Oh, and Mark's like, I pointed. I did it. The emoji. Look up here. You're absolutely right, Mark. I missed that. So we're going to talk about some fun meetings today. And I think we have to start every one of these conversations with fun meetings and start the topic by giving everyone an opportunity to share those things that you do within your club that differentiates you from other clubs to how you have fun. And some of the things that we hear on a regular basis about fun, one almost always involves around food of some sort, because who doesn't like going to a meeting with food? You work in a corporate environment, you know the best way to get people to come to a meeting is by having food. The second best way is to have it in a warm climate with food, but that's not always an option. So food is generally a good start. How many of you have novel ways that your clubs do something that is engaging and fun and different from what the normal meetings are out there? Who has something that you do that way that is just a little bit different and a little bit more fun? Nobody? Nobody has fun meeting. Tom Hollinger, what do you have? What does Kendallville do? Tom, you are on mute and your camera's off. And you're still on mute.
Sorry.
There we go.
Technical glitch. Okay, so the Kendallville Club, Lunchtime Speaking to Succeed, we do a little bit something different with our agenda. Instead of having an ah counter, we call it a penny popper. And that started back many, many years ago. And when we would count the ahs and the ums, run-on sentences, that sort of thing, we would charge each one of our participants pennies, and we would put that in the treasury. Well, over the years, that's evolved to a quarter per pop. But we max it at $1 per participant per meeting, so we don't bankrupt anybody. So that's a little something we do that's a little different, I think, than most clubs, and it helps fund our treasury. We have fun with it. People enjoy it. And now we haven't been able to enforce that, obviously, with the Zoom format. So it only takes into consideration the people who are able to attend our meetings live. But I think we have a lot of fun with it and we enjoy it.
And Tom, what do you do with the money then?
We put it into the treasury and then we use it for club manuals. We actually just bought some Zoom equipment. We bought a camera stand, a hub. Yeah, so yeah, that's, and then occasionally we'll have a group meal where we'll go out. Of course, that was pre-COVID, and we'll use the funds to do that. But typically it's putting it back into the club in the format of materials or equipment.
Very good. All right,
That is a
thank you,
lot of
Tom.
ums and ahs.
You're right.
That's right. We maxed Tom out at $1 today, and he'll be donating $1 to the treasury. Thank you, Tom. Tiffany, what about y'all? What do y'all do?
Good morning. At Mem Talks, we have found themed events, or as we call them, our themed parties, right? Our club sessions to be very fun and engaging.
What kind of themes?
So anywhere from music to dancing, especially if it's around a holiday. Cinco de Mayo is always a good festive one.
Yes, it is.
Depending on the month, Women's Month, or just depending on what's going on. So various themes.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Tiffany. So Tom mentioned something about agendas. How many of you do something different with agendas? How have you been to a meeting, grab bag meeting? So when you walk in, you don't know what you're going to do that day or when you first start, but you pull names out of a hat, and whatever you pull out, that's what you get that day. Maybe you'll be a speaker, maybe you'll be a master, maybe you'll be evaluated. You have no way of knowing before you get to the meeting, but you just pull rolls out of a hat. Have you been to one of those meetings before? If you haven't, those are amazingly fun because everyone has to come with a speech, and everyone gives everyone just a little bit more credit because you know that probably not everyone is prepared. It can be a lot of fun to put somebody in just a little bit more of a stressful situation in a really fun way. Dana, what about you? What do you guys do? You're on mute, Dana.
Pardon me. I remembered a really fun meeting we had, and Zoom made it possible. So we have a gentleman who celebrated his 99th birthday, and it was going to take place on the day of our meeting. Well, one of our members found this service in Ireland. This family of farmers would rent their goats to Zoom into a meeting. And so we had our meeting, and people wore birthday hats. People put decorations behind them. People had hula girls on popsicle sticks dancing around. We had an on-screen party, and at a prescribed instant, we connected in the goat farm from Ireland, and the farmer was holding up a sign that said, "Happy birthday, Ted." Well, here's what goats do. They jumped up and started to eat the card. And it was hilarious. We took a picture of it, took a screenshot of the goats eating Ted's card and everyone laughing with the hats on. So that was a lot of fun. Another thing we did that was fun, we had someone Zoom in from Colorado. So the great thing about the Zoom formats, okay, not only can you have some goats join your party, we also had someone from the Humane Society Zoom in, and they had 2 little kittens. So we've had Humane Society kittens in our meeting. We've had goats from Ireland. We've had visitors from the East Coast and Colorado. And last point, we learned from an outsider that in their club, they Zoom in to Toastmasters clubs in other states and other countries. She found a club in the UK somewhere. You can do that on the website, right? And got the permission and the Zoom link. She had to get up at like 4:30 in the morning, but she Zoomed into a meeting in another country. So that's what I have to contribute.
Love that. Fantastic. Goats for everybody. That sounds like the greatest of all time, doesn't it? Everybody gets a goat. You get a goat. You get a goat. Everyone gets a goat. Perry, do you have goats?
We do not have goats, and I'd like to think that our table topics are sometimes creative, but no, I was just going to say I'll say we have a tradition that at least maybe once a year, the prepared speeches just by accident include somebody singing, and somebody could actually sing for half of the speech. So that's something we always like hearing. It turns out we have some Toastmasters in our club with good voices. So there you go.
Very nice. Musical Toastmasters, always exceptionally fun. And it can turn into a karaoke day as well, which you can never beat a karaoke day, right? Sounds like a lot of fun. So after you, just a point of order, make sure that after we call on you, make sure to put your hand back down electronically. Otherwise you stay in that top left and everyone's still looking. Is there something else or no? But fantastic. We absolutely love that. I still think we all need goats. So when you look at agendas, there's some fun things to do with agendas. Besides the pulling names out of a hat, have you been to any backwards meetings? Has anybody held a backwards meeting recently? Dan, so you know about backwards meeting. Explain a backwards meeting to everybody else.
Well, we had a backwards meeting about, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. And our Toastmaster that day, who happens to be the VP of Education, and he set up the agenda. He came in and essentially dismissed the meeting and walked away. So our meeting lasted for 10 seconds or something like that. But it's just that the way the meeting operates is that you start from the beginning, you do an evaluation before the speech, and then you go back up the line until you get to the invocation at the end. So it's kind of a fun meeting sometimes, a little bit different.
And Dan, what's the funniest thing you've seen during a backwards meeting? And I'll go first because we do backwards meetings in one of my clubs. And one of the funniest things that I've had happen to me personally in a backwards meeting is the evaluator said, I loved it when you started clucking like a chicken halfway through your speech. It added a flair that you don't normally see. So during my speech, I had to work in clucking like a chicken because the evaluator said so. What about you? What kind of fun things have you had come out of those meetings?
Yeah, well, I guess the one thing is the Toastmaster walking away after, we had to carry on without him actually. But it's fun to just make up your own stuff, just like your evaluator, he made up something and forced you into doing something maybe you hadn't planned on.
Fantastic. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Dan. What about roasts? Have you ever had a roast at a meeting? Have you ever roasted the outgoing president or roasted some club? Anybody have roasts out there? Tom, is your hand just still up or do you guys have roasts too? Perry, you have roasts?
No, we've never done
We've
that.
had,
Scott.
we've had
My hand.
speeches,
still-
we've had
I'm sorry.
speeches that were roast. It's not the same thing.
Okay. If you ever go into Google and Google old roasts from the 1970s, the old Dean Martin roasts, some of that style of roast can be absolutely hysterical, but it requires your club to, one, make sure everybody knows that it is a roast and that you're not being serious and that you're friends with each other. But it really does add a completely different flair and a completely different type of speech and presentation style from what you would ever see before. So roast can be a lot of fun. When it comes to other types of theme parties that you see out there, I was a Toastmaster in Florida for a long time before I moved to Indiana. And we always made sure, because we were so close to Louisiana, we had to celebrate Mardi Gras every single year. And every single meeting throughout Mardi Gras, we had Mardi Gras meetings. And if you have a king cake at a meeting and you have a Mardi Gras theme, it just certainly adds a little bit of a different flair and a lot of fun. Halloween can always be those dress up meetings. You can always have whatever holiday you want to celebrate. Those are fantastic types of themes also. So those are kind of the entryway into fun meetings. There's a lot of other ways to have a lot of fun meetings out there. Dan, what about you? I see your hand raised there.
Oh, I just wanted to mention one other type of meeting that I just thought of that we've done occasionally, and that is Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Oh, fun. Yes.
You wear a patch on your eye if you like, or whatever, a bandana or something like that, but it's imperative that you talk like a pirate, like "Arr, matey," for example.
As long as you don't make anybody walk the plank.
Yeah.
I think you're perfectly fine. That sounds like a lot of fun though. Absolutely. So with all the themes are endless. If you go into Google, there are a bazillion themes available out there. The only limitation is your imagination. So if you have any questions about themes, share with each other. Go out and try something that somebody else is trying. I'd love to hear how that goes. But when it comes to fun meetings, there's a couple other things that you can do that really do lighten up a meeting and spice it up and create a little bit of a different environment that people walk away incredibly engaged. So how many of you, when you first joined Toastmasters, when you very first had your thought of joining Toastmasters, your number one thought is, I don't know what they do, but I want to be a better Toastmaster? Nobody, right? Perry, before you even knew who we were, you were like, I'm going to be a better Toastmaster. Chances are, most people, when you join Toastmasters, you all had the thought, I'm going to go try to find somebody to help me do this thing, whatever this thing is that I want to do outside of Toastmasters. That maybe I want to get better at speaking in public. Maybe I want to get better at listening. Maybe I want to get better at introducing myself to strangers. Maybe I'm just petrified of people and I want to have an opportunity to talk to others. In this COVID world, and as we're in these little boxes, maybe you decided all of my meetings are now on Zoom and I need to learn how to be captivating in a little square as opposed to in front of people. Whatever the reason is that you join Toastmasters, those reasons vary. As vast as there are members out there, no two people are exactly the same. I am pretty sure that why Keith joined was a little bit different than why Mark joined and why Effie joined and why Laura joined and why Tom joined. Everybody joined for something a little bit different. So when was the last time you went out and talked to your members and said, why, not just why did you join, but why are you still here? How many of you have done a survey or a pulse survey with your members recently that says, why are you still coming to Toastmasters? What is it you're trying to get out of Toastmasters to apply in the outside world? Not a lot of hands. So the reason I bring this up is, imagine how engaged you would be if there was an entire meeting dedicated to the thing that you wanted to work on the most. And by saying that, let's say that your reason why you wanted to come to Toastmasters is you wanted to learn how to tell better stories. So maybe as a Toastmasters meeting, you have a Toastmasters meeting 100% dedicated to the art of storytelling. You go out and find somebody to come speak to you that's a storyteller from out in the community. Maybe it's somebody who tells stories to kids at schools or in libraries, stories professionally, or has been to a moth festival before. It's a storytelling festival, not something of little bugs that dance around little lights. That's completely different, but that could be a fun meeting also. Maybe you have a meeting completely dedicated to whatever that thing is, and everyone else participates in helping that person grow a little bit. When you create those meetings that are dedicated to an individual need, as you work your way through the club, everybody walks away at some point going, man, I got that was a lot of fun. I can't believe they did something just for me today. That's a heck of a lot of fun. That's incredibly helpful, especially when you are in corporate clubs. Now, my show of hands, how many of you out there are in a corporate club right now? There's a few of you that are out there. I know that it's a noontime meeting, so I know there's a bunch of people out there that are at work right now. What if your meeting was dedicated not just to your Toastmasters journey, whatever that would be? What if you did something so that you're able to attract new people who just joined the company to help them understand your company culture, to help them understand why your company does stuff? Or maybe it's to help you prepare for performance reviews at the end of the year. If it's the first time you're giving a performance review, or if the first time you're receiving feedback from a performance review. Maybe it's the first time you're going to go interview somebody and have a meeting dedicated just to how to interview people. All of those things that you do in the work life, if you fixate your Toastmasters meeting around that thing that you want to do outside, it gives you an opportunity to mess stuff up magnificently in private so that you can then take it outside of the Toastmasters meeting and succeed magnificently. Because we are, if nothing else, a laboratory for failure. And I say that truthfully because we are the place where you can come and fail and it's never going to hurt your career. Even if you're in a corporate club, you can create a safe space within your corporate club enough that you can go out and try something new and practice it and fail magnificently and then go out into the real world and practice that. So have any of you tried that with specific meetings around how to interview or how to accept feedback or how to give feedback, how to create a performance evaluation, any of those things? I know of a corporate club. I've been to a corporate club that's in Los Angeles that does that every single meeting. They focus on one thing for their company culture. They're a bunch of lawyers and they love to argue. They love to argue in a very legal way. And they do meetings on a regular basis where they are practicing how they are going to present cases. And it's a way for them to practice in private so they can succeed in public. Very cool way to be able to do that. Some other ways that are out there that I've seen that are really good ways to have fun with your meetings. Now, how many of you or have been around long enough that you remember the old legacy program? Anybody out there miss the legacy program a little bit, that you kind of wish there was a way to still incorporate the legacy program somewhat? Absolutely. Well, there's really nothing out there that says that you can't practice parts of the legacy program. Can you have a speech about the things that are in the old legacy program and have people practice through those things and have them work within pathways still? Absolutely. How fun would it be if you were to have a meeting that did nothing but talked about vocal variety? So everyone practiced vocal variety. And maybe you have it on Talk Like a Pirate Day. So you have to practice your vocal variety and how to use vocal variety effective and within a speech. Or props. How fun is it to do a prop day where everybody has to bring props in for their speech so you can practice with visual aids? Or maybe it's using body gestures and language and learning how to become big within a very small confined window, but still being able to have a presence so that you can make gestures and you can use your body in different ways to be able to talk to people. All of those things were part of the legacy program, part of the things that we missed from the legacy program, but they're also ways that you can use them towards research a project, talk about something, get an evaluation, and learn how to do it a little bit better. Those first speeches are perfectly geared towards parts of the legacy program to still incorporate the things that we love the most from a program that we don't use anymore, but incorporate them in a way that makes sense within the new program. Great way to be able to combine those two things together. How many of you remember the old advanced manuals out there? Storytelling, persuasive speaking, speaking to inform. Were any of those fun speeches you ever heard out there? I loved a lot of those speeches. So you can always use some of those speeches as the basis for a pathway speech. Just because you can't speak out of the legacy program doesn't mean you can't still use the legacy program to be able to craft speeches for pathways. But where do you find all of those old manuals? Well, amazingly, you can find all those old manuals are available online. These are all of my saved manuals. This is every legacy manual that was out there. I went out and went to Google and Googled the name of the legacy manual, and they're all out there. They've all been saved as PDFs. So if you ever wanted to go do a storytelling event or a storytelling session, go out and find the storytelling manual and gear an entire meeting around how to become a better and more effective storyteller for whatever audience you might want to have. I guarantee if you're in a corporate club, part of creating corporate culture is about telling the story of why you exist. Every company has a founder story, and it's part of why you're still there. So what if you all learned how to tell that story in better ways to help create that culture a little bit more deeply? I doubt there are many companies out there that would say, we really want our culture to be as weak as possible and to have no impact on our company. That's not a thing, but you absolutely have places out there that would love to be able to invest in developing that culture a little bit further. And maybe you'll find you get some special visitors from your CEO might join, or your COO, or anybody that is in charge of culture out there. Great ways to be able to include others while still being able to make meaning within how we do Toastmasters now. So what do you think about that? Is that something that anybody's ever thought of or tried before? Anybody game for having a meeting that's just about how to use one of those old manuals in an effective way? I see Michelle's hand raised. Michelle, what do you think?
We love the old manuals, and we still have some people who use the manuals if they have a speech that doesn't necessarily fit into the path that they're working in, but it's something that they want to give, whether it's for work or their personal life, then we allow them to go ahead and give that speech in the club. And we found that with some of those speeches like that they are a little bit more interesting and exciting for the members because a lot of times they're talking about themselves and we get to learn more about them. So we feel like we're bonding more as a club.
That is fantastic. I absolutely love that. And thank you for such an amazing segue also for the next point I want to talk about. When you're in grade school, how many of you used to love show and tell? Like those were fun days when people brought in stuff and talked about their life. The same that Michelle talks about. One of the great ways that you bind your club together is to know each other as people. One of the funnest meetings I've ever been to, or funnest, I'm not sure which one that is. One of the most entertaining meetings I've ever been to was a show and tell day where we did nothing but teach people how to do something that we're passionate about. I learned how to make Asian dumplings that day, how to make Chinese dumplings. I would have never thought that I would be just completely enthralled with how to roll dumplings. It is fascinating to watch. We've learned about woodworking. We've learned about how to crochet. I did not know crocheting was that hard, nor did I have any idea that it's possible to get crochet needles stuck like that and have to use scissors to get them unstuck. If you teach somebody something, it does a couple of things. One, it invites somebody else into your life. And two, that invitation brings you closer to everybody else that's out there. So who has hobbies out there that maybe you're incredibly interested in that you would love to be able to bring towards the club to help that club, help your friends understand a little bit more about what you do? Anybody have a fun type of hobby out there that you would like to try to share with your club? Well, I cannot believe nobody out there has hobbies. I am sure folks have hobbies out there that you have things that you love to do. So encourage your club members, bring that part of them to their club, teach somebody something. One of the most entertaining speeches I ever heard was about somebody that went on a hiking expedition through the mountains of Peru and talked about the different uses of guinea pigs. Now, we already talked about goats, but you never know how important guinea pigs are to an ecosystem until you learn about how somebody used them as they hiked through the mountains of Peru. And slideshows like that are fantastic to bring you into somebody's life. So those are great ways to be able to do something different. The other thing that I will say is when you're doing meetings like this, when you're online with meetings, how many of you had interruptions that maybe you've had to learn to talk through? Has anybody been in a meeting where a child randomly showed up? Where a pet happened to walk across the screen? Where a dog barked at the delivery driver? Where the smoke detector went off because you forgot you started dinner? All of those things are distractions. But one of the things that's great for us to be able to do that, failing in private, what if it did a meeting was nothing about distraction? So the entire purpose of the meeting was to distract everybody. And your chief distractor was an actual role for that meeting. And they got points for however many times they're able to distract somebody. So it gives the speakers a great way to be able to learn how to manage that distraction. How helpful and useful is that? How fun is that for the chief distractor? How many things can you come up with to try to distract the meeting? I didn't come up with a bunch off the top of my head. That would be a fun way to be able to engage people in doing something a little bit different while learning something. Just a little bit off course from what you normally do. Valerie just said in chat that she remembers one member gave a speech about stitch witchery. Ooh, and I learned how to repair pants and how to repair a pair of workout pants. Pretty cool. I like that. So all of those are different ideas for how to create a little bit of a more fun and engaging meeting. So from all of that, I'm sure that at some point through that discussion, your wheels started to turn a little bit like, well, what if we did this thing? So what are those what if we did this thing things that you're thinking about? I'd love to hear from you how your mind is racing, thinking about different ways that you might be able to go have meetings. Besides, everyone's going to go get goats because I think everybody wants a goat for their meeting now. That is, I think, the best one I've ever heard. What ideas do you have now about how to create a little bit more of a fun meeting that you've been thinking about this? Nobody, huh? All right. So let's keep kind of teasing this out just a little bit more. Who remembers, Michelle? I see you with your hand raised.
Yes, last night we brought in a professional storyteller in our meeting, and she was wonderful. She was from Northwest Indiana. She's been a storyteller for 33 years, and she started off with her story. Her background was absolutely warm and welcoming, and she had a tree with some nice lights, and she was in a rocking chair while she was telling the story. And then she gave us some tips as well as some ideas for activities that we could do in Toastmasters. So it was just a really great night last night, and it was more than we had expected from her. You know, gave us a lot of really good ways that we could liven up our speech delivery, as well as some speaking activities that we could try.
Absolutely love that. Thank you, Michelle. That's fantastic. Improv, and when you invite folks in from improv, they do the same thing, and it's so much fun. So there's a question in chat from Perry that says, we were always told in the past, all speeches must be manual speeches or to translate it into the Pathways program. All activities, maybe except for table topics, must be linked with the Pathways projects. So let me ask you this. When you're thinking about Pathways, how many of you have ever met the Pathways police? How many of you have had the Pathways police show up at your house or your club? If you do, those aren't policemen. They are called stalkers, and you should call someone. That is different. There is no Toastmasters police. There is no Pathways police. The goal of Toastmasters is to help you become a more effective leader, a more effective communicator, a more effective listener. That's what Toastmasters is about. So if you have tools that are out there to be able to help you in any of those ways, that is 100% why Toastmasters has an educational platform in the first place. I don't remember seeing anywhere within the Pathways program where it specifically says I should have a speech about goats. Anybody remember that project that says, today we're going to talk about goats, and specifically fainting goats? Because I think that fainting goats would be a fun speech too. Could you have a presentation out there that matches within something with fainting goats? Can you think of any projects that might work with? I can think of a bunch. So it's the same way that there's nothing out there that says you can't use some other resource as the basis for how you're presenting Pathway speeches. Same way that you could have a book club. You could go out and find your favorite book. You could talk about Talk Like Ted, or you could talk about Who Moved My Cheese, or you could talk about, I don't know, The Princess Diary. Whatever you want to talk about, you could have speeches about that as well. Just like it doesn't specifically say that in Pathways. Pathways is meant to be a guide to help get you somewhere. That's why it's a path. It's to help you, it's to help take you on a journey to go somewhere. What resources you find along the way to be able to use, that's completely up to you. To whatever makes sense for you in your journey. That's not to say, I'm not saying that we're going to give you, that everyone's going to start getting credit for just manual speeches. They have to fit within Pathways, but you can fit anything into Pathways because there are no Pathways police. We're going to do whatever's best for you as the member. That's the most important part. So Perry, great question. Thank you for that. I absolutely love that. Eva had a pajama day meeting for Zoom. That sounds like a lot of fun. And they brought stuffed animals. Eva, you want to talk about Pajama Day? I'd love to hear more about Pajama Day.
Sure, it was not my idea, but the person who was Toastmaster for that meeting, and I just remembered this, came up with the idea and sent a note to everybody, said the theme is Pajama Day, so wear pajamas, your robe, bring your stuffed animals. And a lot of people did. It was on Zoom, so it didn't matter. So that was kind of fun.
Fantastic. I love that. So you wore pajamas top and bottom instead of just bottom, because we know that most people come to Zoom meetings half dressed at this point, right?
Right.
The whole getting fully dressed thing, that boat sailed years ago now. I love that. Something fun to be able to do. And did you do lullabies or tell children's stories at your Pajama Day meeting?
No, didn't think about that. But
That could be a way to kick it up even another notch. Have pajama day and do nothing but tell children's stories.
yeah,
You could even do like a campfire day where you tell stories around a virtual campfire. It's the scary stories you tell at camp when you're 12 years old. That could be a heck of a lot of fun to do as well. Thank you. But see, that one idea, see how it starts to create different ideas. You can take an idea and spin it forward. Thank you for that, Eve. I really appreciate that. I think I'm going to suggest a campfire day at one of our upcoming meetings. I like that idea. Complete with teddy bears and pajamas and s'mores maybe, and scary stories. Fantastic. Lauren, what do you have?
Well, we've got a lot of experienced members. We really wanted to push ourselves with our extemporaneous speaking. So what we tried for our table topics is having a photo, and you had to create a story around this photo. So it wasn't a personal experience, it was a story that you had to come up with. And there were some really great stories that came from that day. And it makes me think even we could take that further and have a day where someone starts a story and then it has to be continued by the next person, and everyone is part of the story, and that could be kind of fun.
That's awesome. Has anyone the table topic where every table topic builds upon the previous table topic? Have you done those at all? Mark Mandel, I see your hand raised. You've done that before. Tell us about how that works and how maybe you could translate that into an actual speech, a bunch of speeches.
Absolutely. So thank you, Scott, and I apologize for being late. And it's lovely to see 53 people on this call at lunch. So yeah, we did that. We started a tale, and then we just expanded on it. So each person had to get up, and we just randomly picked people, and they just took over the story. And if I remember, it just wended itself in multiple different directions. Then people started getting smart, and they started taking it really out there. So the next person had to try and bring it back. And it was a fascinating, we're a pretty advanced club. It was a pretty fascinating session. We've done that a couple of times. My wife is actually working on we call it the courtroom caper at the moment. She won late last year. And so she had a scene with props and everything. And we just put it out there as a case, and had people show why they weren't the guilty party. So lots of ways to do that type of thing.
I love that, Mark. That sounds like so much fun. It almost sounds like you could do like a murder mystery night for one of your meetings where you could almost play out I know that there are places online where you can download the whole role thing for murder mysteries. Maybe you could have a murder mystery night. How many of you remember the masked speaker from last spring that we did right before the contest? Anybody remember the masked speaker? Oh my word, only a couple of hands. You need to go onto our YouTube channel and check out the masked speaker from it was amazing. We took the idea from the masked singer and made them masked speakers. So every week we had a bunch of people that were masked speakers, and they present a speech, and then you voted for your favorite one, and then one got voted off, and then we unmasked them at the end. It was an absolute hoot. What if you did a couple of weeks like that within your meetings, where you did something like a masked speaker, where you kind of ripped off a program for Toastmasters to try to figure out how to do something like that, or a game show. A very different way of being able to be present and to learn how to do a bunch of really fast table topics might be within a game show format. I could think Family Feud could be a heck of a lot of fun if you did a Family Feud type of game show within your club. That could be a lot of fun to be able to do. So there are endless possibilities for how to engage all of your members out there, how to get them together in terms of what to actually do. So I throw this back to you once again. Alberto, what ideas do you have about how to have fun meetings?
Hey, Scott. No, I think on the topic of table topics, I just wanted to share on something that we did last week. And in general, I think my club tends to be very creative for that. But last week, essentially what we did was a game of what's the word? How many homophones?
Homonyms?
So basically
Homonyms?
yes. So basically words that sound the same but have a different meaning. And essentially the point of the table topic session was to create a story using your word, and at the same time trying to use that word as many times and as in many different contexts as possible. And at the end we ended up with with a count of every single participant and basically a winner for that. So my word, for instance, was mail. And I use it both as, like mailing something, but also a mailed as a person, and just creating a story around that. So I thought that was just something to share.
That's a lot of fun. I love that. A homonym day. That's very fun. Thank you for that. So a very quick aside, I used to work for a company and my boss did not understand the difference between STAKE and STEAK. So every time she sent out an email about the stakeholders, and she was director of human resources, she would talk about the stakeholders, and every one of them was STEAK HOLDERS. So every time I think about homonyms, I think about people standing out in the field, holding their stakes up in the air, going, I am a stakeholder, hear me roar. And you can have a lot of fun with stuff like that. Alberto, I love that suggestion. That's fantastic. I don't recommend bringing stakes into work and just having a bunch of people holding stakes up in a random conference room, but you can have a lot of fun with how do you create incredible funny moments from homonyms. That could be a great meeting. I see Mark is laughing so hard right now, he's crying, both with his emoji and in real life. I absolutely love that. So it's one other thing you can absolutely do when we talk about how to have some fun meetings a little bit more engaging. One of the things that we've seen over the past couple of years, the past year especially, is the great resignation with so many folks leaving jobs. And we know that there's a lot of folks out there that are either in job transition now, they're looking to leave a job and maybe need to go introduce themselves to a new employer at some point. What is an icebreaker speech? Isn't it a way to introduce yourself to somebody new? Entire session that was on icebreaker speeches where you practice introducing yourself to a brand new group that you didn't know. So not to Toastmasters, but to your but to your next employer, to your next spouse, to your next church group, to whatever it is, to practicing how to use that ice in a different way that's fun. So you don't hear the same icebreakers every single time. And then you could follow that up with a meeting that's nothing about, there's nothing but table topics, interview questions. You could even have somebody from an HR group come in and ask you questions that they would normally ask in interviews so that people could practice how to answer interview questions. Now, I don't recommend doing that if you're looking to leave your company or doing this in a corporate world, but it does help if you are for other opportunities within your current job organization that you're looking to change different places. So there's definitely an opportunity there to be able to use what you're doing outside of Toastmasters and being able to build that skill from the inside of Toastmasters. Mark Mandel, I see you with your hand raised now as well.
I do. I'm really glad you talked about the interview skills, as some of you, or most of you, are way too young to know. Toastmasters, actually, if you read the history, started as a way to help people in California during the Great Depression to be able to practice interview skills. So this is a fantastic way to go all the way back to the start of our heritage to make that happen. I love that idea. Tiffany, write that down for a Memphis meeting, please.
Love it. That is absolutely fun. Thank you very much. I see Don did a karaoke with table topics. It was a hoot to have a corporate club singing together. I know where you work and I would want to see one of those. I think that would be absolutely hysterical to see your group sing along with that. You are a very analytical group, and to see that different side, I would love to be able to see that. What a fun thing to be able to do. As you can see, the ways to have fun at meetings, you can have a different meeting every single week of the year and have it never be the same as the previous week. To have it always be tied together with maybe something somebody's learning, with something that somebody wants to learn, something that somebody can teach you, the different theme, a different way to laugh and have fun. If you notice, there's something that happens when you talk about this. How many times did you see people smiling and enjoying just talking about having fun today? I saw smiles on just about everybody's face here today. When you talk about having fun, it's fun. Imagine how much fun it would be if you actually implemented some of these so that you went out and you did them. Having fun at meetings, trying something different. Toastmasters clubs are incredibly forgiving places that if you try something and it doesn't work, Nobody cares. It was fun while you tried it. And sometimes falling flat on your face is one of the most fun experiences you can have, when everybody falls together and there's always somebody there to pick you up. But don't be afraid of trying something different, of trying something new. And I hope that throughout the course of this today, something resonated within your mind. You said, I should try that. Even if it's just going out and renting goats, because I still think renting goats for a meeting is a hoot. Mark Mandel, you missed that. We are going to be renting goats for a future meeting, maybe. Absolutely. And Tiffany, you're absolutely right. It is a fantastic way to practice self-care as well. That is a bad joke indeed. Oh, Wilbur, that is a bad joke. There's a lot of fun ways out there. So we have about 5 minutes left. What thoughts or ideas or anything do you have about how to have fun at meetings that we didn't talk about yet today?
Scott, this is Valerie
Valerie,
Rice.
how are you, my
you?
friend?
I'm well. I just wanted to mention, we have Deborah Swan here with us, and I know Christy Sherwood, she's our division director, and Ed Wickham, he's our area director. Well, they all know that we Kahoot every meeting, and that's how we keep our meetings lively. We probably need to change it up, but Kahoot is a staple with our club, and it's been that way for 3 years now.
So for those that don't know, what is Kahoot, Valerie?
Kahoot is an interactive online game. Everybody's in the meeting space, and you encourage them to log in to a mobile device. It can be a mobile phone, it can be a tablet, or you can open another tab on your computer and just toggle. Everybody sees the questions on the screen. There's music going in the background, and then you work through whatever questions are on the screen. You get points based on speed and correctness. At the end, there's a podium. There's a first place, second place, and third place winner, and then there's confetti that falls on the screen once you announce number one. And Miss Swan has won probably for 3 years the most. She is the Kahoot woman in our club.
That sounds like so much fun. It's almost like a pub trivia night done online and virtually without having to go anywhere.
Is that
I absolutely
Kahoot?
love that.
Is that Kahoot with a K?
Yes, it's K as in kiss,
yeah.
H-O-O-T, and it's an exclamation point. Businesses are now using it. It's really caught on. It used to be for education, but now Kahoot has opened an entire business section in their organization. To Kahoot is free. However, to create a Kahoot, you probably have a limited amount that you can do. I'm a subscriber because I use it for work.
Absolutely love that. Thank you very much. And if you're looking for a Kahoot, maybe that penny popper that Tom Hollinger talked about at the very beginning, maybe you do the penny popper process and all those quarters go together to help you pay for a Kahoot account. So you can have a little bit more fun in your meeting. Maybe there's a benefit to it after all. I absolutely love it. So I would like to thank you for spending your lunchtime today with us. I think we had a little bit of fun today talking about how to have fun. I thank you all so very much for being here, for the interaction, for the attention, and for everything that you do as club officers. I absolutely love it. Thank you all so very much. So whether you're going to go out and maybe you have a meeting dedicated to learning how to create a better toast, or maybe you just want to become a better Toastmaster, whatever it is, keep the process lively, keep it fun, and keep entertaining yourselves. Because nothing is better than a fun meeting. We've said all along that Toastmasters was never meant to be so serious. It was always meant to be fun and enjoyable. And the more that you can do that, not just for your club, but for yourself, the more that you will get out of the process. I think we always enjoy learning while having fun. So I know that most of you are at lunch. We'll give you a few minutes back so that you can go to the restroom, go do whatever you need to do before you have to go back to work. I thank you all so very much for being here. Before you log off today, remember to go to the chat feature, put in your name, your club name, and the role and/or roles that you hold. So after we save this, Mark Mandel will be able to go back through the list and being able to and be able to give everybody credit for this. So, Demi, you are. What's the question in chat at the end? I'm going to provide my attend. Oh, got it. Okay. Demet, just put in your name, your club name, and the role and/or roles that you hold.
And if you're with another district, your district number would help me. I know, Tiffany, I've already got you covered, but I know there's a couple of people from Davidson Club, District 37. So if you're with another district, if you wouldn't mind sending me their district number, that makes my life just a tad easier.
Fantastic. So everybody, thank you very much. I'm going to hit stop record. It was a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you one, thank you all, and keep toasting on, keep toasting on.